السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. وبعد. Tonight, inshallah, I'll talk about one of the important things that happened in the time of Uthman radiallahu anhu, which is what we call it جمع القرآن على مصحف واحد. The collection or making one copy, one version of the Quran, and after that distribute it to all the Muslim or the Islamic countries at that time, or the Islamic areas at that time. And I think it's very important, before I go to this subject, to talk about the Quran in itself, about the revelation and the efforts of the Prophet ﷺ, the Sahaba in his time, then what happened after his death, what Abu Bakr radiallahu anh did. Then we move to Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anh and his efforts. As we know, brothers and sisters, that the Quran started to reveal to Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam when he was in the cave in Hira, when Angel Jibreel came to him and he said, Iqra, he said, Ma ana biqari, then Iqra, ma ana biqari, Iqra, bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq, خلق الإنسان من علق، اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم. So these, according to the majority of the Muslim scholars, are the first ayahs revealed to Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, and they are the first 5 ayahs of Surah Al-Alaq, and I think it's Surah number 91 in the Holy Quran. 96. So these 5 ayahs were the first ayahs revealed to Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, and after that the Quran continued. So there was Surah Al-Mudaththir, Surah Al-Muzammil, and then there's Surah Al-Qalam, Surah Al-Fatiha, and other surahs, and continued to reveal to Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam until the last year of his life in Al-Madinah. So the Quran continued to reveal for the period of 23 years, and during these years, this was the procedure. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reveal to Jibreel alayhi salam. Jibreel alayhi salam will come to Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam in different shapes. Sometimes he comes to him as a man, sometimes no one can see him except Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. And he will say to Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam the Quran, and Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam will straight away memorize. And this is, we can see it clearly in Surah Al-A'la when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, سَنُقْرِئُكَ فَلَا تَنْسَى. We will make you to read the Quran and you will not forget. This means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala equipped Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam with the ability that he will listen and straight away he will memorize. And we can see a proof of what I am saying in Surah Al-Qiyamah, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, لا تحرك به لسانك لتعجل به إن علينا جمعه وقرآنه فإذا قرأناه فاتبع قرآنه. So don't move your tongue while Jibreel alayhi salam reciting to you. It is upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to collect it and to keep it as Quran. Then when we read it, then follow the Quran. So this means that Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam has the ability by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to memorize straight away. And to confirm this memorization, we'll find in the authentic hadiths that Jibreel alayhi salam used to revise what revealed so far with Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam in Ramadan. So he will come to Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam in Ramadan, and Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam will read to Jibreel, and Jibreel will confirm what he's reading. And it is narrated also in authentic hadith that in the last year of the life of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi wa sallam, Jibreel, he revised the Quran twice with the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. What this means, that when the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam died, the Quran was completed. And the Quran, when I say the Quran was completed, I am talking about this Mus'haf that we see it now, which starts from Surah Al-Fatiha and ends with Surah An-Nas. Now, during the life of Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, what he used to do with the Quran? He used to read it to the people. He used to read it to the Sahaba. This is number one. And he used to have writers, Kuttab. And one of them, Zayd ibn Thabit, Sa'id ibn Zayd, Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anhu, Muawiyah radiallahu anhu. These Sahaba, they used to write the Quran. And they used to write it on different materials. And one of the famous things that they used to write on the sheepskin and something similar to this, because you need something to write on it which is easy to keep, to carry, and you can give it to someone else. And I think the best way of doing this was these sheepskin that they would write on it, and they used obviously different types of ink at that time. And I saw myself, one of the ways that to make ink is the wool in itself. So I was in Libya from 1976 to 1978 as a teacher, and I was teaching in a Quranic school. So and there they teach with what they call it al-alwah. So they have a board like this, and the Imam will read and the student will write. And I saw that these children, there's a place where there's water and there's clay. They go and put in clay on this alwah, then they bring it out, then that ink will disappear. So then I asked, and they said, okay, the ink, they make it from the wool. So they bring some of the wool, put it in any place, put some water, the next day it will be ink. Subhanallah. How this happened, I don't know, but I done this myself, and then they have their own pens and they use. This ink is easy to move. They just put it in the water, it will disappear. So I am saying here, in the time of Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, they might use something similar, because you have to imagine or to think that at that time all the tools for this procedure were very simple things. They don't have the pens that we have these days. So Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam will read, these Kuttab will write it, and other Sahaba will write it also. It's not only those who officially ordered to write. So I'd like you to remember this. So there is a group of Sahaba, they are officially, by the instructions of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you have to write. You have to write what I am saying. And there is other Sahaba, they are sitting with the Prophet alayhi salatu wasallam, and they have own materials. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he reads, they write. Then after that we'll find, for example, Mus'haf Abdullah ibn Abbas, Mus'haf bin Mas'ud, Mus'haf al-Zubayr, and so on, Mus'haf Ali. Why these people, they have their own Mus'haf? Because they used to write themselves in the presence of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. And the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said to some of them, Uktub. So write. So this is very important for us to know, that in the time of Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, there was what? Writing, recording. So the Quran recorded in the time of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. And this is something these Orientals and those who try to follow them, they try to say, oh, the Quran collected later and maybe there is something missing. No, this is absolutely not true. The Quran recorded in two ways in the time of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. And this is what I said, the first way, that it was recorded in the presence of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. And they will read it to Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam and he confirms it. The other way, that was what we call it al-hifz fi sudur, that they will memorize it themselves. And this is something I can say the Arab, they are famous with it. Because the environment there is very clear and they have, mashallah, sharp brains, so it was easy for them to memorize. And one of the things that will encourage all of them to memorize, or most of them to memorize, because the percentage of people who were illiterate at that time was high. So these people, they don't try. So if they don't memorize, what will happen? They will be unable to recite the Quran. So when the Prophet ﷺ will read, then these people who cannot write, what they will do? Memorize. And there is hadith in Bukhari saying clearly that in the time of Muhammad ﷺ, those who jama' al-Quran, they memorize the whole Quran, and they mention among them Zayd ibn Thabit and Sa'id ibn As and other two Sahabas, which I might say their names later, inshallah. So I'd like you to remember this, that during the time of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, we have the Quran fi sudur, in the hearts, which means the brains, and we have the Quran recorded in the skins of the sheep or other materials which was available at that time. Now, we'll find many proofs, again, to say that the Quran was recorded in the time of Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. One of the proofs, when Mus'ab ibn Umayr went to Al-Madinah, what he was reading to the people, when he was talking to them about the Islam, what he used to read? His words? Come on, brothers. Quran. So this Quran that Mus'ab ibn Umayr reading, obviously for him, in his example, he was reading from his heart. So because when he was with Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Mecca, Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to come to them, he'll say to them, this revealed to me tonight or today, and he will read it. And we'll find many hadiths saying that in Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he will come to the Sahaba and he will say, Surah Unzilat alayhi al-layl. So for example, small surah, Surah Al-Kawthar. In Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was there, and then he said, there is a surah revealed to me, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Inna a'tainaka al-Kawthar, fasalli rabbika wanhar, inna shani'aka huwal abtar. Then another situation, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to them, there is two surahs revealed to me, and no one can seek protection, or if you'd like to seek protection, this is the best protection. ما تعوذ المتعوذون بمثلهما. قل أعوذ برب الفلق قل أعوذ برب الناس. He spoke about Surah Al-An'am, for example. And this Surah Al-An'am revealed in one go, and when it revealed, it was supported, or there was 70,000 angels coming with Surah Al-An'am, and it revealed in one go. Surah Yusuf, for example, there's hadith, the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned that Surah Yusuf revealed in one go. And we find that where the Sahaba is talking about Surah Al-Isra, and he say Surah Al-Isra min al-Suwar al-Itab, that it is one of the old surahs. All these hadiths tells us that in the time Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, the Sahaba ridwanullahi alayhim used to know the surahs. So all the surahs which is revealed to Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam during his time was well known to the Sahaba Ridwanullahi alayhi. And another proof that they have an idea, Uthman, Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, he was with one of the Sahaba and he read Surah Al-Furqan. And Umar, he said, no, I didn't hear it like this from Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Maybe some words. And that man, that Sahabi, he said, no, I heard it like this from Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then what they do? Now they have to do with the reference. Who's the reference? Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So they went to Muhammad alayhi salatu wasallam, and Umar put his case that this Sahabi, he read it in a different way. Then Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to the Sahabi, so hear it. And the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, هكذا أنزلت. It revealed like this. Then he said to Umar, read. So Umar read. So the Nabi alayhi salatu wasallam said, هكذا أنزلت. إنما أنزل القرآن على 7 أحرف. So he said to him, read. When Umar read, he said, it is revealed like this, and the Quran revealed on 7 ahruf, 7, which means 7 ways of saying certain words. Why this was important? Because, as you know, in any place, any country, you'll find different way of saying certain words between parts of the country. And here in UK, if someone saying to you a word, certain words, in London, it will be different from someone saying the same word in Sheffield, or someone say the same word in Glasgow or in Ireland. It's the same word, it's an English word, but they say it in different ways. So please remember, it is the same word, but in different accents. So this was the situation. So you will find سبح اسم ربك الأعلى, سبح اسم ربك الأعلى. Okay, it's still the word. The writing, it's the same. أيحسب أن لا يقدر عليه أحد, أيحسب أن لا يقدر عليه أحد. So سه and si, and so on. Now, this is a proof that the Sahaba, they know the Quran in the time of Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu. Now here there is one mas'ala, which is, there is common opinion and rare opinion. And I mentioned them both of them. The common opinion among most or the majority of muhaddithin and those who studying the history of Islam, the seerah of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, that in the time of Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, there wasn't a mushaf. That it is there and the people go and read from it. So in the way that we are having now. Another opinion saying no, there was a mushaf and there is a place for that mushaf and they used to write it and even used to give copies of that mushaf. Now this issue, according to my knowledge, according to my research, is not sorted 100%, that because we don't have a very valid proof to say there was mushaf. Because if there was mushaf in the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then many questions will come that where they used to have this mushaf, who was in charge of that mushaf, what was the order of this mushaf, and those who are saying no, there wasn't mushaf, then another questions will say how they used to write. But we go with the common opinion with the majority of the scholars that the mushaf which we have now in this shape wasn't collected in the same way, and one of the good reasons for this is that the Quran was revealing. So for example, if Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in year 9, he said, okay, let us do the mushaf now. Then between year 9 and 10, there's 1 year, and during this year, there's many surahs that they have to put this here, despite the fact that when a surah can reveal, or sometimes an ayah revealed, then Muhammad ﷺ will say, put this surah before or after this. And in certain cases, he said, put this ayah before or after this ayah. So this means that you'll find ayahs may be revealed later, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered Muhammad ﷺ to put it in that place. Muhammad ﷺ left this dunya, and now what we have Quran for Sudur and memorized by the Sahaba. And there is, as I mentioned, there is a group of the Sahaba, they memorized it full, from Fatiha to Nas. And there is a group of other Sahabas, they are memorizing parts or full of the Quran. And we know in the time of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, there was these people who said after the death of Muhammad ﷺ, either we don't want to pay zakah, or they tried to destroy the Islamic country at that time, which we call them al-Murtaddeen, and there was wars between Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu and Muslims with him and these Murtaddeen. And one of the battles which happened at that time, and was very severe one, was Ma'rakat al-Yamam. And in that one, about 70 of Huffaz al-Quran al-Qurra killed shuhada, insha'Allah ta'ala. So the news came to Al-Madinah that about 70 of the Qur'an being killed, which now reduce the number of people who know the whole Quran or know most of the Quran. So Muslims have to take action. And the one who raised the flag, I can say, Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu. So he went to Abu Bakr and he said to him, Ya Abu Bakr, Ma'rakat al-Yamama, there is a lot of Qur'an being killed in it. So we have to collect the Quran. So Muslims will have a copy that they will follow, because if more people will be killed, then we don't want to reach a point that there is no one to go to them to check or to take the Quran from. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, at the beginning, he didn't agree with the idea. And his answer was, how I do something that the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't do. Umar came back to him again and again, until Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, as he said in the hadith in Bukhari, حتى شرح الله صدري لرأي عمر, until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made me feel good about the suggestion, and now they have to take the action. And they need a person to do this job. And they know, as I mentioned earlier, that there is certain Sahaba, they know the whole Quran when Muhammad died. And one of them, Zayd ibn Thabit. Zayd ibn Thabit is a very, very, very clever Sahabi. Zayd ibn Thabit, in the time of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, there was a person who was writing letters for the Prophet ﷺ, and he was a Jew. This was his job, just writing the letters to others. And when there is a letter coming, he will read it to Muhammad ﷺ. Then the Nabi ﷺ, he found that this is not acceptable. How can I continue now? The Islamic country in his time was expanding and there is a lot of responsibilities, so he needs someone to do this job, and he has to be a Muslim. So he called Zayd ibn Thabit radiallahu anhu, and he said to him, "Can you learn Hebrew?" Because this was what they used to write. He said, "Yes." He said, "Go sit with this man and learn it." So he learned Hebrew in 7 days, in 1 week. And this shows us how genius, mashallah, was Zayd ibn Thabit radiallahu anhu. And this, I can say, entitled him to carry this job. So they called Zayd ibn Thabit radiallahu anhu, and he's from Al-Ansar. And Abu Bakr spoke to him, and Umar was sitting there. And he said to him, "Zayd ibn Thabit, we'd like to collect the Quran in one mushaf." And Zayd, he's saying, according to Hadith al-Bukhari, if they ask me for something like this, it will be easy. But this was heavier than the mountains. And of course, brothers and sisters, and this job to check the Quran and be sure that it is mushaf, because they know that this mushaf will be continued until the day of judgment, inshallah. So at the beginning he said, "How can I do something Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam didn't do?" They said, "We discussed the matter." Then Zayd ibn Thabit started. So he started to check what he knows with the Sahaba ridwanullahi alayhim. So for example, he will go to Sulaiman. Sulaiman, what surahs you know? He will say, "I know Surah Al-Tawbah, I know Surah Al-Anfal, I know Surah Yunus." Okay? So he will say, "Read it to me." So he will read it. Or, "Do you have anything recorded?" He will say, "Yes, I have my part of the Mus'haf. Show it to me." He will show it to him, read it, compare what he's saying. They are agreed with, yes. So he will write that I checked Al-Anfal, At-Tawbah, Yunus, with Sulaiman. Then he will go to brother Jum'ah, then brother Abdullah, then brother. So he will keep going until he checked with most of the Sahaba who were in Medina at that time, and again he knows that these people memorize or they have copies, Sahab, we can call it. So when he continued this job, he came to Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu and he said, "This is the Mus'haf now." And that Mus'haf became now the official Mus'haf for Muslims. So he kept that Mus'haf, and then in the time of Umar radiallahu anhu, then in the time of Uthman radiallahu anhu, this is what happened, which I will tell you the story now. If you remember what I said last week about the situation in the time of Uthman radiallahu anhu, that there was expansion in the Islamic state at that time. So it is in Egypt, North Africa, in Asia, in all these countries, Syria, and all of these things. So, and because of this, now there is original Muslims, Arabs, who went there with the army, and now there is reverts from these countries. And because Arabic was the official language and the language of the Quran, obviously, then the people, they start to learn Arabic and start to read the Quran in Arabic. Now, these people in these countries, I can say, you'll find some of them, they didn't, or they can't read it in the proper way. So you'll find person A, B, C, D. So they will read. So for example, they read Al-Fatiha, just an example. Then he said, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman, Nur Rahim. The other one says, no, Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahmani, Ar-Rahmana. What? So Hudayfa radiallahu anhu, Katib Sir Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he noticed this, that the people started to dispute on the Quran. And this is something Hudayfa cannot accept. Because if Muslims started to dispute in the Quran, which is the reference, this means destruction. Because it is accepted that people might dispute or have different opinions in the meaning, for example. But it is not accepted to say, is it Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen or Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen or Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen? It's not accepted. So Hudayfa felt that there's a need to do something. Where he should go now? To Amir al-Mu'mineen. Who's Amir al-Mu'mineen at that time? Uthman bin Affan. So he came to him and he explained to him the situation that there is a problem now and this problem needs to be sorted. Now, Uthman radiallahu anhu called again now Zayd ibn Thabit radiallahu anhu and other two Sahabas, and he asked them in a way to repeat the same procedure which happened in the time of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, and to make copies. Now these copies, there is different opinions about the number of these copies. How many copies? Some saying that it was 4, some saying it was 5, some saying 6, 7, and so obviously one of them was in Al-Medina, and they sent one to Mecca, and one to Kufa, Al-Basra, and Egypt. So let us see what he said. Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anhu to Zayd ibn Thabit. So Uthman radiallahu anhu, so he sent to Hafsa radiallahu anha, who she's obviously the wife of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, and the daughter of Umar. She has the copy which was with Umar radiallahu anhu, which was collected in the time of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. So Uthman said to her, could you give us this copy, and when we copy it, we'll give it back to you. So he ordered Zayd ibn Thabit, Abdullah ibn Zubayr, Sa'id bin As, Abdurrahman bin Harith. So 4 people. So I like you to remember these important names. Zayd ibn Thabit, Abdullah ibn Zubayr, Sa'id bin As, Abdurrahman ibn al-Harith. And he said to the 3 of them, which were from Quraysh, Abdullah ibn Zubayr, Sa'id bin As, Abdurrahman ibn Harith, they are from Quraysh, and Zayd ibn Thabit is from Al-Ansar. So he said to them, if you dispute among something, then write it in the language of Quraysh. Because Al-Quran revealed in their language when it started to reveal to Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, and this was how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam read it himself. So when they've completed this, then he sent these copies to the areas. Now, there is one important point I have to mention here, that Uthman radiallahu anhu, when he did that, he consulted the Muhajirin wal Ansar, and also the great Sahaba, and among them Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu, and Ali radiallahu anhu was among those people who approved what Uthman is doing. Now, after Uthman finished, he has the copies, now he has to take a very important action. What's the action? Now, as I said to you, brothers and sisters, that in these areas now in Africa and Syria and Iraq and Asia, so the people, they have some copies. Now, he has now to enforce that all Muslims should read one copy. So he ordered the governors in all these areas to collect anything that to do with Mus'haf and burn it, and consider only one copy of the Quran, which is the copy that collected in at the time of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, which is exactly as the Quran which is revealed to Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam when he was in where? The Medina. And this is the Mus'haf that, and this is why they say Mus'haf Uthmani. So when you hear Mus'haf Uthmani, so it's nothing to do with Turk, because when I was young and I say Khat Uthmani, I say this because of the Turkish. No, it means that this is how Uthman radiallahu anhu asked the Sahaba radiallahu anhu, or accepted the copy that done by Zayd ibn Thabit and these great Sahaba radiallahu anhu. And from that time until now, Rasm al-Mushaf means the way that they wrote it is the same. So this is anyone who's studying Arabic or learning Arabic, he can see that there is many words, it is written in the Quran, it's Arabic obviously, but it's written in different way. And for example, sometimes you will find the ta maftuha, and sometimes you find ta marbuta. The word as-salah, you will find it as-salawat. Why? Because it was written at that time. This is how the Prophet ﷺ asked them to write. Now, the question comes, which is this Mus'haf that we have now in this order? This order, is it the Sahaba, yani Zayd ibn Thabit, Abdullah ibn Zubayr, Sa'id ibn Zayd, that they agreed it? Or this order is from Allah? Here we have two opinions. And one of the opinions that this is what? Ijtihad Sahaba. That they found that, okay, let us put this one here, this one there, and continue. And the other opinion is no. It is not Ijtihad Sahaba. It is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, Imam Suyuti, rahmahullah, who is one of the great scholars who spoke about ulum al-Quran, he discussed the opinions and he found that no. Tartib al-Quran tawqifi. Tartib al-Quran tawqifi. What this means, that the order of the Quran is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I am following this opinion for many reasons that I will explain it inshallah. Suyuti himself, he proved in a book that he authored that the order of these surahs is the right order. So he found that there is a link all the time between the surah and the surah after it. Not only this, you'll find link between the surah with the surah before it and after it. He gave an example. He said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Fatiha, He ended the surah with what? غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. And according to the majority of the Mufassirin, المغضوب عليهم means whom? Jew. And the ضالين means Christian. He said, look at the next two surahs. The first surah after Al-Fatiha talks about whom? Jews. The next surah, Al-Imran, talks about whom? Christians. So, if this order was from others, he can put Al-Imran before. And then he said, while Anfal, for example, is short, then it came before Tawbah. So if it is according to the link, Al-Ma'idah, which is shorter than Al-A'raf 206 ayahs, why Al-Ma'idah, which is short when you compare it to An-Nisa and Al-An'am, why it is there? Why it is not after? And why we start with Madani? البقرة مدني, الأنعام مدني, النساء مدني, المائدة مدني. Then we go to where? Makki. الأنعام مكي, الأعراف مكي. Then we go to Madani again. الأنفال التوبة. Then we go to Makki again. Yunus. So if it is according to Madani and Makki, so they will put all the Madani before and all the Makki after. But this is not. And in 2 minutes, inshallah, I'll tell you numbers, but this needs full concentration, because if you are not full concentrating, you cannot understand. And it is by the numbers tells you that the order is 100% from Allah. No one can play with it, no one can change it. I'll give you another examples. I'll talk about the miracles, but now, what's the first word? What's the first ayah in the Quran? In the Quran that we read. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. 19 letters. How many ayah in Surah Al-Fatiha after Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim? 6. طيب. 6 by 19, 114. Yes?
Yeah.
And what's 114?
Complete
The number of the surah in the Quran. The first surah starts with 6. And the last surah in the Quran, how many ayahs? Surah An-Nas? 6. Is this comes like this? Yani, that they was thinking, okay, let us put 6 ayahs here, 6 ayahs here. No. There is mathematical order from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let us come to the next word after Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. What's the next word? Alhamdu. How many letters? Count. 4. Alhamdu. 5. Go to the Quran. Find how many surah in the Quran start with Alhamdu. 5. Not 4, not 6. الأنعام, Fatiha, الأنعام, الأعراف, Fatir, and 7. Only 5. Start with Alhamdu. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the key of the order in the first ayah, first surah, first word of this one. Which is, tells us that this is, the order that we have is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No one can change it. So let me tell you some numbers now. And as I said to you, you need to be 100% awake. So anyone who's half asleep, stand up, move your place, or maybe drink some tea.
Now we have to prove now that the Quran that we have, that from ayah 1 until ayah 114 they are in an order no one can do it. So in these surahs you'll find some surahs are odd numbers. Surah Fatiha 1, Al-Imran 3, Al-Ma'idah 5, and so on. Understand?
Yeah.
Okay. And there's surahs, even numbers. Al-Baqarah, An-Nisa, Al-An'am, and so on. So, and there is number of the ayahs in every surah. So, Surah Al-Fatiha, for example, number 1, and how many ayahs? 7. Al-Baqarah 2, and how many ayahs? 286. Al-Imran 3, and it's 200 ayahs. What we'll find from this? We'll find there is some surahs, they are the number of the surah, the number of the ayahs are the same, either odd or even. You understand?
Yeah.
So for example, as I said, Al-Fatiha 1 and 7. And some of them, they are even, and the number even and the number of the ayat even. And there is other surahs that the number of the surah odd and the number of the ayahs even, like Al-Imran 3 and the number of the ayahs 200. So we came to the Quran to find these. How many surah they agree the number of the ayahs with the number of the order, and how many surahs the number of the surah is different from the number of the ayahs of that surah. Okay? And the thing is, the miracle is, we'll find exactly half. 57 surahs, you'll find the number of the surah exact goes with the number of ayahs, and 57 the number of the surahs odd and the number of the ayahs even, and vice versa. This is number 1. So we'll come to number 2 now. And these surahs, those surahs which is even in the first half of the Quran 28, and in the second part of the Quran 29, which is 57. And those odd is 99 in the first half of the Quran, 28 in the second half. So we have 140. And the same with those who are different. Now, we came, by the way, this work done by a friend, a brother who's Palestinian in Jordan, called Abdullah Jalhoun. So these numbers not my numbers. So I'd like you to understand this. But I checked this information. Then he said, now let us see the 57, which is the numbers equal to the order, similar to the order, and the numbers which is not similar. So he calculated the number of the total of the ayahs on the first 57, which is the same. The total is 3,303. And he calculated the total of the number of the surahs of the second party, and it is exactly 3,303. I'll say this again. So we agreed that there is 57 surahs, they are the same. The number of the ayah and the order are the same. And 57, the number is different, being odd and even, from the order. So the first group, which is the same, the total of the order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is 3,303. Then he counted the total of the ayahs, 7 plus 2 and 86 and so on. So the number is exactly 3,303, which is without a doubt a proof that this order, it is not, the miracle is not only that in many areas, even what is the number of the surah, what is the number of the ayahs in the surah is a miracle in itself. And if you play or try to change one ayah, for example, Surah Al-Baqarah 286, if you try to make it 285, the whole system will collapse. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who chose where this surah is in the Quran and how many ayahs it is. So as I said to you, when we make this thing, how many surahs, they are the same, the number of the ayahs is the same type of the order, even or odd, and where there is difference. So 57 here, 57 here. Remember the number. The total of the ayahs in the first group, 3,303. The total of the order of the other group is 3,303. Then we'll come to another miracle in the number of the ayahs. Anyone who knows how many ayahs in the Quran according to the Kufi, which is we are using? 6,000 something. Right. It is 6,236. 6,236. Now this number is a miracle in itself. We have 6 at the beginning. I told you what's this 6 at the beginning. What's 6 at the beginning? The number of ayahs of Surah Al-Fatiha without Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So it started with 6, ends with what? 6. 6 is the number of what? Surah Al-Nas. So what's in the middle? 6,236. What's in the middle?
23.
23. What's this number?
The number of years.
The number of years when the Quran revealed. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put the miracle in the number. So anyone who has doubts, okay, count it. 6 at the beginning, Surah Al-Fatiha. 6 at the end, Surah Al-Nas. 23 in the middle. How many years the Quran revealed? Then, if we count, if we add up the number of the surahs, so 1, 2, 3, 4 until 114, the total of this, 6,555. 6,555. Okay? And we said the Quran is 2 halves, 57 and 57, which means what? In other words, 19 by 3. Okay? If you put 19 next to 3, so it will give us the number 319. Think now about another miracle in the order. 6,555 is the total of the order of the surahs. Yes? 6,236 is the total of the ayahs. 6,555 minus 6,236 give you 319, which is 3 by 19, which is 57. So every word in its place. I'll just give you, because this subject is very, is a very wide subject. But subhanallah al-azim, one of the practices of this came, for example, to Surah Al-Muddathir. So in Surah Al-Muddathir, there is the number 19. عليها 19. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke about the angels who are in charge of the hellfire. Then in the next ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke about that the revelation is فتنة للذين كفروا يزيد الذين آمنوا إيمانا and يزداد الذين أوتوا الكتاب. So there is a reason. And subhanallah, عليها 19. How many words? 3. Okay. And when you multiply it by 19, which is the number mentioned in the ayah 30, 57. Count how many words before that, you'll find it exactly 57. So this is no one can do. Another example, Surah Al-Kahf. In Surah Al-Kahf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَلَبِثُوا فِي كَهْفِهِمْ 300 سِنِينَ وَازْدَادُوا 9. So they stayed in the cave 300 years and 9. He didn't say 309 in the way that we are saying it. He said, ازدادوا 9. Then not this brother Abdullah Jalhoum, there is another one called Kuhayl. He counted from the first of the story of Surah Al-Kahf. Because you know there is at the beginning about 14-15 ayahs is introduction. Then أم حسبت أن أصحاب الكهف والرقيم كانوا من آياتنا عجبا. From there until ولبثوا في كهفهم 300 سنين وازدادوا 9 الله أعلم بما لبثوا. So he started to count and he found from أم حسبت until the word 300, and he found it 300 words exactly. Then after 300 until 9, he counted the words, they are 9. So, how can, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam cannot do this. Sahaba cannot do this. Any genuine person cannot go and say, and like, so if anyone would like to make an essay or something, he cannot go and count the words and these things. Even anyone who went through this, when they say to you it was 300-400 words, even he's not using the computer, he keep going, count, higher, finished, move this, move that. But brothers and sisters, the miracle in the Quran, which is the mathematical thing, is one of the new evidence that first this Quran from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Secondly, it cannot be from Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. Thirdly, the order that we have now in the Mus'haf is the order from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when you read it, be absolutely sure that you are reading the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And don't listen at all to those who are trying to shaking our belief. And who's trying to do this? You'll find them mainly these Orientals, like someone called, I think, Zinka or Joel, I cannot remember the name now. But there they start, and personally I read one of these books, and I read the reply of one of Shaykh al-Azhar on him. So they prove to him that what you are saying doesn't stand when you go to check it. Now this is a new thing about when I am talking about this i'jaz al-tartib, that the i'jaz in the order of the ayahs of the surahs, how many times the letter mentioned in the ayah, in the surah, so all of these, you a new area to discuss and a new area to prove for anyone, even the Muslims, that this Quran is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Obviously, you know this is what I'm talking about, is about I'jaz al-Tartib, is something new, but we know, all of us, maybe you read, there is I'jaz in history, I'jaz in geography, I'jaz in Aqidah, I'jaz in science, I'jaz in maths, in everything. So when you read this Quran, read it with this understanding that every word there, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put it in the right order. And he said about it, كتاب أحكمت آياته. أحكمت means put in the right order. No one can change it. No one can move forward or put it back. This is cannot happen. I finish by just telling you a story. I heard it from one of my teachers, maybe 40 years ago now. And he said there was a person in Spain when Muslims were in Andalus. And that person was a Jew, and he has a very beautiful handwriting. So his job was, or his main income, that from writing Masahif. So he's sitting in his shop and keep the whole day copying the Mus'haf, decorated. Then the people come and buy it. And he was fine. So one day, while he's doing this, the shaitan, he said to him, just do something. Put ayah before ayah or after ayah on the next page. So he did that. On that day, after he finished, there was a boy, 10, 12 years old, and alhamdulillah, he completed his hifz on that day. So after they celebrated him, his father took him, and he'd like to show him that how much he's appreciating him. Then he said, I'll buy for you a copy of the Mus'haf. And they know that this person in maybe Cordoba at that time, or Granada, they went to him and he said, okay, can we have, he said, there is one, I just finished. So the boy, he took, and he was so happy, opened, and subhanAllah, where he came to that page. So when he looked at it, he said, that is not true. This ayah is not in its right place. He just finished memorization. And the Jew, he said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. I write by my hand, Inna nahnu nazzalna dhikra wa inna lahu lahafidhun. This is a proof in front of me now that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who took the full responsibility of keeping this Quran unable to change. That I finish by this. So we see here, brothers and sisters, how great is the work of Uthman radiallahu anhu. So every time you open your Mus'haf, say Allahumma arda an Uthman wa an Zayd wa an Sa'id ibn al-As wa Abdullah ibn Umayr and all the Sahaba and Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, Sahaba ajma'een, who did this great job, and we are benefiting from it now and until the day of judgment. Subhanakallah wa hamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.